The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
Before we proceed, here are some highlights from World Bank Georgia Monthly Economic Update for May 2023. The economy grew by 7.3% in March and by 7.2% in the first quarter of 2023 year-on-year. In March, construction, finance and insurance, trade, transportation and storage, information and communication, and hospitality were the main drivers of this growth. In contrast, manufacturing, real estate activities, and professional, scientific, and technical activities experienced a decline. There were approximately 7.1 thousand new business entities registered, a 9% increase month-on-month, but a 21% decline year-on-year. It is worth noting that March 2022 marked the start of business activities resulting from the first wave of immigrants. The population of Georgia increased by 1.3% in 2022, reaching a total of 3.736 million, according to Geostat. This growth was driven by a net positive migration of 55,000 individuals, while the natural increase contributed negatively with 7,000 fewer births than deaths. In 2022, Georgia experienced a strong positive net migration for the first time in 3 decades, excluding 2020, the year of the pandemic. In April, consumer prices dropped below the NBG target. Inflation declined by 0.7% month-on-month, bringing annual headline inflation to 2.7% year-on-year, down from 5.3% in March. The main driver was a 30% year-on-year drop in fuel prices, driven by a similar decline in global oil prices, which accounted for a decrease of 1.7 percentage points in headline inflation. In addition, reduced drug prices contributed 0.7 percentage points to the overall price decline. The introduction of external reference pricing for key pharmaceuticals and the facilitation of imports of drugs from Turkey contributed to this decline. In contrast, food prices plus 2 percentage points year-on-year and utilities plus 1 percentage point year-on-year positively contributed to inflation in April. Meanwhile, the Industrial Producer Price Index PPI declined by 5.2% in March year-on-year, hitting a record low since 2016 and confirming weaker supply-side price pressures. In response, the National Bank of Georgia, NBG, cut the monetary policy rate by 50 basis points to 10.5% in May, the first reduction since March 2022. The March goods trade balance reflects rapid growth in exports, but also a strong upturn in imports. Exports rose. These numbers exclude arrivals from Azerbaijan, as the land border has remained closed since the COVID-19 pandemic, resulting in a 33% year-on-year in March compared to 6% in February, while imports also rose 33% year-on-year, up from a 5% decline in February. As a result, the trade deficit also widened by 1/3. Export growth was driven by re-exports, with re-exports of used cars, mainly from the USA, increasing nearly 8-fold year-on-year to USD 174 million. Almost 90% of those exports went to the Kyrgyz Republic, Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Kazakhstan. Similarly, imports were driven by used cars in March. Meanwhile, exports of domestic products dropped by 18% in March year-on-year, driven by a 6-fold reduction in the exports of ferroalloys, dropping both in quantity and in price per ton. The external position continues to be supported by money transfers, primarily from Russia. Money transfers rose by 18% in March month-on-month and by 127% year-on-year. The main source country was Russia, with a 50% share in total inflows, marking an 8-fold increase since March 2022. The tourism industry experienced an impressive recovery in the first quarter of 2023, with the number of foreign visitor arrivals reaching 88% of 2019 levels, excluding arrivals from Azerbaijan, and doubling compared to the first quarter of 2022, official reserves stood at USD 5 billion, equivalent of 4.3 months of imports. Positive developments in external trade and other external accounts led to the continued appreciation of the lari against the dollar in April 2023, with an 18.4% appreciation year-on-year and a 2.5% appreciation month-on-month, World Bank says. Annual bank deposit growth remained high. In April 2023, the total stock of deposits increased by 30% year-on-year, excluding the effect of the exchange rate, a performance similar to that of the first quarter. This increase was driven by both local and foreign exchange deposits, which increased by 39% and 23% respectively year-on-year. Nominal credit growth continued at a pace of 13% year-on-year in April. Lari loans increased by 16% year-on-year in nominal terms, while foreign exchange loans rose by 11% year-on-year. The banking sector remained healthy, with a slight improvement in return on assets and return on equity, increasing to 3.4% and 24.9% respectively in March. Non-performing loans 90 days past due stood at 1.7% by the end of March and 0.6 percentage points lower than in March 2022. The fiscal performance in March 2023 was almost balanced, with a deficit of less than 0.2% of projected GDP. General government tax revenues moderated overall, declining by 8% year-on-year in nominal terms. Total revenues also declined by 4.3% year-on-year. The decline was mostly due to other taxes, which are net of VAT refunds. Government current expenditure grew marginally by 2.6% year-on-year, while compensation of employees increased by 24% year-on-year, mainly due to salary increases. Capital expenses increased by 8% year-on-year. Public debt benefited from the contained deficit and the appreciation of the lari, falling to 28.9 billion lari in March, equivalent of 35% of projected GDP.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.